Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the community. We ask that you come in and take your seat. We want you to come in. We got a great conversation waiting for you tonight. As always, we ask that you like and share, like and share. Appreciate you guys being here and being so consistent. Hello, good evening to you. Let us know where you're coming in from, what city and or state, because I know a lot of you, well, not a lot, some of you watch from outside of the upstate. So I don't want to assume that all of you are local. So go ahead and put in the chat where you're watching from. And we always do this every night. And I didn't tell our guest this, but that's okay. He can do it next time when he comes. Make sure you tell us what you're drinking tonight. We are pushers of water. We're pushers of 8 ounces, 8 times 8, 8 ounces and eight of those ounces of water. So 64 ounces. However, I got that all confused. Anyway, thank you guys for coming in. Appreciate the thumbs up, like and share, and subscribe, depending on what platform you are on. We are here to have a great conversation. And so if you know somebody who needs to be a part of this conversation, go ahead and share this on their page. We're going to talk about leadership, and we've got someone who has a wonderful book that is going to talk to us about leadership. But I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of time to come in. Hey, Brandon, how are you? Are we on the CW? No, we're only on the CW when there's like golf, or I think the last couple of days there was soccer on or something. So it's not every day. It's just on those days. But otherwise, we're on our regular channel. But like and share, everybody, like and share. I think you guys are going to enjoy, well, I know you are. You're going to enjoy exactly what this gentleman has to offer. Good evening, Stacy. Glad to have you with us. And Brenda, you are always hanging tight with us, so we certainly appreciate it. Hello, Stacy. How are you? And we are going to go ahead and get started. Appreciate you guys chiming in with us tonight. Have a great guest for you this evening. He is the chief of police for Williamson, South Carolina, Chief Tony Taylor, and he has also written a book about leadership and things of that nature. So if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. But good evening to you, Chief Taylor. How are you?
I'm doing great and excited to be on here tonight. Looking very forward to it tonight.
Glad to have you with us. As I mentioned, Chief Taylor is the police chief in Williamson, South Carolina, and that is in the upstate area. So tell everybody kind of a little bit about your journey. You don't have to go through the whole entire resume, but just a little bit about your background and how you ended up as chief of police in Williamson.
Okay, well, I think I've been policing all my life since I've been in diapers. But I started out in 1984 at Greenville County Sheriff's Office. I was fortunate enough to get hired back then 2 weeks before I turned 21. And I can never forget, I was working the front desk, and when I turned 21, they brought me my .38 revolver, and I strapped it on, and you couldn't tell me nothing then. So it's been a long journey. I worked at Greenville County Sheriff's Office and worked there for about 20 years or so, and worked in community patrol and started out with Sheriff Johnny Mac Brown and started community policing concept and worked a little bit with gangs and different things like that. And I had an opportunity to go to work at the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, where all law enforcement personnel are trained. And so I worked there in the advanced training unit. And in at the end of 2012, I retired, and too young to retire. And I wanted to come back home to Williamson. That's where I was born and went to high school at. And I wanted to come back home and contribute to Williamson. And I got a call and became the chief of Williamson, and I'm the chief there of Williamson Police Department since 2013.
Wow, that's pretty awesome there. Do you find it difficult to police? I'm going to ask you kind of an array of questions, but we are also going to talk about your book. But do you find it difficult to police during these times? Things have kind of been a little crazy in our society. And what is like some of your challenges, or do you find it difficult? How do you manage your officers and yourself, in dealing with a town?
Well, I think one of the things is, from my standpoint, is that law enforcement is a calling. It's much like ministry and different things. It's a calling, and I think that one of the biggest frustrations that we have is not necessarily the people in the community, But I think funding for police officers and paying police officers for what they're worth and those kind of things, and those have been as a chief, those have been the challenges. I think we work real well with the community. I've always been community minded, community based, and we still can improve in those areas. But I'm telling you that over the last several years, we've had a challenge of being able to and maintaining good professional law enforcement officers. One of the things that I do is I serve on the South Carolina Law Enforcement Training Council, and one of the things that we do is that anytime there's a misconduct, they have a hearing, and we actually make decisions on whether that person should be in this career or not. And a lot of times we end up taking their certifications. So that's kind of been one of the things that's been a challenge of looking at and making sure that we hire the right people, and then finding people that really want to do this work, because it's very difficult now with all the negativity when it comes to law enforcement, to find people that really want to serve and work in that field has been very challenging for hiring and also for retention of keeping these officers, especially these good officers, in our agency.
I know a lot of people say that it's things have changed a lot, of course, in policing, but also even the pay. Are you guys trying to go to your legislators to see if they can increase the pay and even the training for officers? Is that a continual fight that you have, or not fight, conversation?
Well, we have these conversations. One of the things the state legislation does is that the state looks out for the state. So we have the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, your probation, and those kind of things. And for us localized, it's left up to our county and the local municipal government to fund us. And that's been a very difficult challenge because we cannot compete with the state agencies and those kind of things. So I know people have been looking on the news and talking about the raises and things they're getting, but that's just only for your state agencies and not for your local, your county sheriff's offices and your city police department. So it is a challenge we're looking at now, dealing with this retirement issue. Hopefully, we have a bill in the House right now that we're working on that will allow someone that when they retire to actually come back to work and not be penalized. Like in the past was, if you retire and you want to go back to work, then there was a $10,000 cap on your retirement. Once you reach $10,000, your retirement stopped coming in. So now they're trying to move that up to that an officer can make at least $50,000 and continue his retirement. So that's something that the Chiefs Association is working on, and hopefully that might help us a little bit.
Wow, I didn't realize that. What about you guys hiring veterans who have are kind of having trouble finding jobs? Is that kind of a conversation that has come up?
Well, I just think that with everything that's going on, we don't find people that want to be cops. Let's just be honest. We don't find a lot of people that want to be police officers. Back in my day, it was a noble thing. It was very noble. We took a lot of pride in what we did, and we still do take that pride. But because of the way that a lot of people view police officers, that view us because it's shaped based on some stupidity, based on some people that shouldn't have been officers across the country, and for some reason they cast that and disperse that on a lot of our officers. So a lot of these younger people, they don't want to live like that. They don't want to live under the microscope.
And something you said you sit on the council that you actually, if an officer gets in trouble, you guys have a hearing. So it's not like all these officers are getting away with things that they're doing. There's actually a process to reprimand them when they do things inappropriately.
Yes, there's misconduct. There's several things that what we consider misconduct. When an agency reports that, and that's the key, the agency has to report that as misconduct, and then the agency has to come before a hearing officer, and the agency has to prosecute that case, much like a criminal case. And then once the hearing officer renders his decision, then it comes to the training council, which you have on the training council. You have the head of the state law enforcement division, the head of Department of Corrections, the head of probation parole, the head of wildlife. You have them on there. You have the director of the Criminal Justice Academy. You have a sheriff from an agency over a population over 50,000. You have a sheriff that's under 50,000. You have a police chief that's over 10,000. You have a police chief that's under 10,000, and we all serve on that, and we listen to that case, and then we make a decision, and we can take the certifications, or we can put them on probation. We can suspend them. We can tell them they have to get a certain amount of training if they want to police in our state. Now, once we take that certification, it's put in a national database, so hopefully they won't leave our state and go police somewhere else as well. So we do monitor that, but it has to be turned in by the agency for us to do what we need to do in regards to misconduct.
That makes sense. I appreciate you sharing that. And then last question I'll ask before we start talking about the book. What do you want the public to know about police officers, or what should they know about interacting with police officers? I know that is a loaded question, but maybe like 2 or 3 things that you can tell folks, or what do you wish they knew about officers that is maybe a misunderstanding on the public's part?
Well, I think that one of the things that I can say wholeheartedly is that they need to understand that we're not robots, that we're people, that we have feelings, we have emotions. We have to come to work regardless of what's going on at home, or regardless of what we're looking at in the media, or what somebody's posting on Facebook about police officers. Just understand that we're people. The majority of us are trying to do the best we can, and we are here because we want to be here. And so I think that's one of the things that people need to understand. We're human beings, and we got to deal with a lot of crap sometimes, but we're here to serve and protect the community, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the indifferent. We're here to serve everybody.
Good deal. Appreciate that. Did have a question real quick. Ms. Brenda wanted to know, do you know Sheriff Wright?
Yes, I do. I know Sheriff Wright.
Okay. Yes, Brenda, he knows Sheriff Wright. Okay,
Yes.
Let's talk about your book, Life Lessons Learned in Leadership. That's the title of the book?
That is the title of the book, Life Lessons Learned in Leadership. And
what made you decide to go ahead and write this book?
Well, I think it's important as a professional and as a life learner, if I can give back to my law enforcement professionals, if I can learn anything, if I can give back to them, reach back and give back to them. I wanted to talk about some of the mistakes I've made in leadership. As taking over as a chief of police, it's not an easy thing to do. Whether you're a huge department or a small department, it's all relative. And I wanted to share some of the things, and not just for in law enforcement, but anyone that's in leadership can really learn a lot from this book. And so I wrote this book. I'm the examples in the book. It's my failures. And so I talk about them, and I talk about what we can learn from them. And I challenge the readers to have a self-assessment and be honest with themselves at where they are in their ability to lead people.
Okay, you got to give us one failure, whether it's in the book or not, but just talk about something that you did and you were like, oops, shouldn't have did that.
One failure.
Well, I'm saying failure, one mistake, because we learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. I think one of the things, and I have one of the chapters in this book, is understanding words matter. I think learning how to frame your words, learning how to better communicate. And I can never forget, I had a situation where at the time there was I had an individual within a school resource officer. And when I went to talk to them, now currently we've added additional resource officers, but there was one school resource officer, and I had this conversation that we needed to do a better job at, that we were going to plan on hiring more resource officers, but somehow it didn't come out right. And that particular resource officer thought that I was saying that they wasn't doing a good job. And so they left emotionally hurt because of what I said. And that's not what I was trying to communicate. So I learned through that it's important that we take time out to frame our words properly to make sure people understand the message. And so I can remember that I had to go back and apologize because I didn't even think about it. I just said what I needed to say and didn't even think about that, how that might have sounded to that individual. So with that was that was a lesson
Do you think it's
that I learned.
important? You think it's important though, and I didn't think about this until you were just saying that. Do you think it's important though when you make the transition from almost being like a subordinate to being a leader or a boss, that you need to kind of reassess the way you interact with people? Because like you said, your words carry more weight, especially when you're in the leadership position. And a lot of times I don't know if people even really think about that. Can you expound on that a little bit about how much weight your words carry when you're in a leadership position?
Oh, well, I mean, your weight, your words are like gold. So when you speak something, you speak it, and they expect some act on that. So you have to really, really, guard your words. You know what you say, and be intentional at what you say, and don't say anything that you can't back up, that you can't actually carry out, because people look at that. They look at that. So you want to make sure that whatever you say, you want to make sure that you say it in such a way that people don't have any misgivings on what you're trying to communicate.
Good deal. Some of your other chapters, you sent me kind of a little rundown. Talk about this, No More Drama. Where did that title come from? And kind of expound on that a little bit.
Well, I think you got to be wise enough to choose your fights. Some people, for some reason, they love drama. They love chaos. And as a leader, we can't get tied up in unnecessary chaos. And so this was one of the things that I've kind of learned along the way is that don't spend your time fighting fights you shouldn't be fighting, and try to create an environment where you need to address issues from the very beginning, and don't allow it to manifest into strife and those kind of things and that kind of thing. So I call it no more drama. You don't need to address everything that you hear. People may bring something negative to you about you or something, but as long as you know that's not true, you don't need to address everything. You address what's important. So that's why I came up with that no more drama.
How do you know though? How do you decide what to address and what not to address? Sometimes there are gray areas. So how do you move forward in that?
Say that again, please.
Sometimes you don't know what's important or what to address and what not to address. So how do you decide how to move forward, and how do you decide?
Well, what I do is people that are well-meaning, when they come to you, they come to you with a pure heart to address an issue, and they're not talking behind your back. They will actually come to you because they're concerned. And so I tend to address those things. If I got to go track something down, who said this or what said this or who said this, I don't spend time on that. What I do, I spend time when someone comes to me and I know they're serious, and that's when I address it.
That's good. Talk about and this gave me another thought as you were just answering that question. Talk about the morale that is affected when people are filled with drama. From a leader's perspective, how do you cut the drama so that the morale in your unit, in your office, isn't damaged by the bad apples?
Well, drama is much like cancer. Strife, envy, there's nothing good comes when you have drama. And it's much like cancer. And if you don't address, the things that need to be addressed, and it's just like cancer. It can definitely poison the people and those kind of things. So that's why you don't want drama. You don't want the gossip. You don't want drama. You don't want inner fighting, because it's much like cancer.
Good deal. The other chapter that you talked about, and you kind of mentioned this just a few minutes ago, was, before we go to that, let me ask you, do you have your book in front of you? Or
Yes.
a book? You can hold your book up so we can see the front of your book, Life Lessons Learned in Leadership. And you have to let us know where we can get that book.
Get it on Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon. And
Like,
I want to say, like I say, each chapter has a question. For example, um, when we talk about no more drama, at the end of it, I ask, "Are you drama free?" I ask questions like that. Um, and all of them have some questions. Some questions are a lot deeper because I want you to do your self assessment and be honest with you are, and hopefully this book will help you, uh, and help you develop to be a better leader.
and the book, the reason why I wanted to talk to you about the book is because it's not just about being a police chief. It's not just about being a CEO or a manager. I mean, you could be a pastor of a church and
Oh yeah,
still get lessons out of that. You could be the head of a household and still get lessons out of that. What
yes,
you mentioned a couple times self-assessment. Talk
right.
about the benefits of doing a self-assessment, because once you do it, what are some of the things that you'll learn from that process?
Well, I think you learn you're not as great as you think you are. Uh, that's one of the things. I think that it's important that we continue to. For me, it's important that I continue to evolve and to learn and grow and become better at what I do. I think it's important. A lot of people are armchair quarterbacks, and I talk about that. One of the reasons I wrote this because I was an armchair quarterback. I was saying, "Oh man, why are they doing this and doing that?" When I got in that position, I found out a lot of reasons why they would do different things, and also a lot of times people are armchair quarterbacks. But what self-assessment does, it allows you to improve. And anyone, whether you're a father, mother, of any profession that you do, is you should want to improve and become better at what you do.
Good deal. Love that. If those of you who are watching, if you continue to like and share and subscribe, depending on what platform you're watching on, and also if you have any questions, please put them in the chat because we would love to ask Chief Taylor while he is here. Here is another one. I'll come back to that one I just put up. This one. Uh-oh, what happened?
Yes, man.
Yeah, talk about the yes man and how that can
What,
hurt a department,
what,
hurt your group as a leader. Talk about that, yes man.
yeah, well, no one should surround themselves with yes men. Is that you should have people there to challenge you when you have to make decisions. Is that you should have people there that challenge you on your decisions, and because you have yes men that they'll say yes to everything you do. That's the greatest thing. But soon as it doesn't happen the way that you should happen, you're the one left holding the bag. So you should have people with integrity that will tell you things that maybe you don't want to hear, or they may see things that you don't see and have your blind spots, because every one of us have blind spots. So um, I do not like yes men, is I want to be challenged. And I want people to have my best interest at hand, to have my blind spots and able to tell me, hey, you not that think about this before you do this. What do you think about this? So, I do know people that walk around with people with yes men. And that is not a good place to be. You want people to challenge you and tell you no sometime.
Yeah. That's kind of a sticky situation though, because how do you know if somebody really has your best interest? How do and it also challenges the person who's in the leadership position to be open and to not be so prideful, but to be open to receive what other people are saying. Talk about that.
Well, as a leader, I think let's let me just be honest with you. Most successful leaders surround themselves with people that are smarter than they are. And I think that's what you have to do. Is you have to you have to understand what your weaknesses are, and you find people that are strong in those areas, and so that's what you have to do, and you have to give them that uh, accessibility and that permission to speak into your life. And so that's what I've done. Is I went out and I found people on my command staff that the areas that I'm not good in, that they are better in, and they can see things, or people with different experiences and those kind of things. So I think that's how you have to navigate it and not have an ego, and just say, hey, I'm not the best in this area, but I'm gonna put a team together, and we're all going to work as one single unit, one single team. So I think that's important, that you recognize that you don't know everything.
Good deal. Okay, we got a few comments here. I know Lori was responding to something we talked about earlier. Have a policy in place to deal with inappropriate behavior. and treat everyone equally. I think that's when we were talking about earlier about no more drama,
Yeah.
removing the people filled with drama. Stacey had a question that you could answer. It says, "What is the racial makeup of the Williamson Police Department, and have there been any police racial issues in recent years?"
Well, I'm the first African American chief of police in Anderson County. Period. Before I got there were no African American chiefs, the head of a law enforcement agency in Anderson County, out of about several different police departments. My makeup is a little bit different because I've heard some of my colleagues say, "Send me qualified African Americans or send me qualified minorities." I don't have a problem finding qualified minorities because I have relationships in the African American community, so I don't have that problem. And I can say that we are pretty diverse for an agency of 25. We are very, very diverse within our community, and I make it a point to do that and to be a reflection of that community. So, have there been any police racial issues? I think one of the first things is when I came there, one of the things that I did find was that even though I'm from there, one of the things I did find is if somebody came in with a complaint and I was sitting with my captain or I was out with my captain, they would go to the captain because they thought he was the chief, and he'd have to revert them back to me, say, "No, he's the chief."
Wow.
And so I did find things like that, and there were some challenges, and there's still going to be some challenges, but I'm there to do a job. It's a calling. And my biggest thing is just to educate the people, educate the public that we're there to do a job. Not, race has no bearing. We look at the color of law and those kind of things.
Talk about, you had mentioned before, I'd interviewed you before. You talk about the letter that you got after you were elected.
Yeah, well, I did get a email from someone that didn't think that our town was ready for an African American to be the chief, and that's what I was told, and he didn't support it and that kind of thing. But about 6 months later, I got an email, and this gentleman was telling me, "Hey, you are the guy for the job, and I think you're going to do a great job." And so people have their own, concept,
Perspectives, insights.
yeah,
Yeah.
perspectives and assumptions and different things like that. But hey, I went in there to do a job, and I'm still there doing that job, and I enjoy it. It can be a challenge sometimes, but as long as you're dealing with people, you're going to have challenges.
Good deal. Here's another chapter in the book that you talked about. Every fight is not a fight. And those of you, let me say this before you elaborate, Chief. Those of you who are just coming in, we have people popping in and out. Please like and share and like and subscribe, depending on what platform you're watching on. And also, if you have any questions for the chief or about policemen in general, talk to us about that. Put that question in the chat or in the comments, and we will ask the chief. Thank you so much for the thumbs up and for the hearts. And another thing that I wanted to mention, you talk about the diversity in your police department. You not only have, a wide array of ethnicities, but you also have females on your force, because I've met a lot of them and they do a darn good job, I must say. They are really out there helping to protect and serve the community of Williamson. So you just need to know that too.
Well, thank you. And we just want to be reflective of the community. That's our goal, is to be reflective of who we are in the community. And everybody brings some aspects, some strengths to our agency, and that's what we look at. We want to have people that want to be there, that want to work there, and want to work in our community and give back to the community. But every fight is not your fight, and that's basically from that No More Drama is the understanding that every fight's not your fight. I mean, you can spend all day putting out fires. At the end of the day, you haven't got anything done. So we got to choose our fights and choose them wisely in what is worth you fighting for and what is the value and the energy that you exert in that particular fight. So that's just some of the things.
That's good. What do you see as, how do you see law enforcement? How will it look in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20, 25 years? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things that we're working on currently is a accreditation, a state accreditation that we meet standards, that we meet a certain standards. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see those standards mandated from a 2-man department to a 1,000-man department in South Carolina. And so I see us more coming in line from a national accreditation, a national standard, where everybody's on the same page. Everybody's doing the same thing. So that's kind of what I see coming. Matter of fact, there's some legislation now, I believe, dealing with accreditation and state accreditation, and having certain what we call our general orders, but certain rules and regulations that we have to follow as being a professional law enforcement organization. So I see that coming here shortly, that I think that's going to be mandated at some point in time.
Good deal. Anything else you want to say that I did not think to ask you about your book? Tell us again where we can get your book, and
Okay.
let's see the front of it. Love to see that. Life Lessons Learned in Leadership by
Life
Tony
Lessons.
C. Taylor.
That's correct. You can go on Amazon. You can get this booger baby right here on Amazon, and I think it's an easy read, because I like reading easy read books. I'm a lifelong learner, and I love reading easy read books. But like I say, it's a lot in here because it's going to challenge you to be better at what you do and who you are. And I just want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to
Okay,
come.
we're not done yet. Don't go away yet.
Okay.
And we don't usually stay on for more than an hour, so I won't keep you here all night. But
Okay. All right.
I wanted to ask, if somebody wanted you to come to speak to their church, to speak to their youth group, to speak at a school, to speak at a conference, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, it's very simple. They can simply call me at 864-245-5265. 864-245-5265. And I also do training. I do leadership training. That's what I'm very passionate about. So if you have a corporate organization, I come out, I have like the 4 P's of leadership that I talk about. I talk about fair and impartial policing. I even do a class on what we call verbal judo. Really, it's kind of conflict resolution. I do some things like that. And, if you have a business or something like that, if you need a speaker to come and speak to your staff and those kind of things. So I do an array of things as well as that. I travel and do that from time to time.
Now give that number again, because I was trying to type it while you were saying it.
864 245 5265.
Okay. 5265. And I'll put up here. It better be right when I put it up here.
It better be 864-245-5265.
Good
Not
deal.
all nines. Not all nines.
Actually, I need to put it up here. So I didn't, and we need to talk about this real quick. You said that you do leadership training. What if somebody, and I'm just thinking outside the box, leadership training, if somebody has a business, a small business leadership training, if somebody has a nonprofit organization leadership training, if somebody has a huge group that they're putting together, a conference, because conferences are coming back, people are doing things. You're also available for leadership training. And you mentioned something about the judo. I wanted you to tell us about that again. The judo.
Yeah, verbal judo. Verbal judo is an assessment of how we deal with people and what set people off, words and different things like that. So we call it verbal judo. I do a class. It's kind of like conflict management. So I do a class like that. And I also travel. I actually do conferences, whether it's a law enforcement conference or whether it's a business conference. And, I talk about my 4 P's of leadership and different things like that and all. And you have to, if you want me to talk about my 4 P's, you'll have to book me. Okay. And I'll talk about my 4 P's and keep the 4 P's of leadership. But I'm available. I'll make time for you. I'm very passionate about leadership and very passionate about continuing learning. I believe it's important that you continue to learn and grow and be the best that you can be.
Good deal. You have shared some great nuggets with us. I see that people are still coming in. We ask that you like and share. And we are talking to Police Chief Tony Taylor, Chief of Williamson Police department. If you'd like to book him for any of your engagements you have coming up for whatever you guys have happening, the phone number is there at the bottom of the screen, 864-245-5265. And this will stay up in our Facebook group. So if you think of something that you wanted to ask him and you didn't think of it tonight, just put it in the chat and I'll reach out to him and have him respond to you. But I'll ask you again, is there anything that you want to say to folks just kind of who are out here about police officers in general that we may just have a misconception of, or anything you'd like to say that I did not think to ask you that would be good?
Well, you asked me if I had anything to say about police officers in general.
Not well in general for police officers, or even for the public to know.
Like I said again, we're human. We're human beings. It's a call. We're willing to die for you, and I think that's people, they don't understand that. Is when I put on the uniform, I may not come back home, but I'm okay with that because I'm willing to die for you, because it's what we do, it's who we are. And somehow or another, I don't think that resonate with people, that we're willing to take a bullet for somebody. And it's not something we want to do, but in the truth of reality, it happens all the time. It happens where police officers lose their life protecting someone. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're protecting an outstanding, good, moral citizen. That they could be protecting someone that's corrupt. They could be protecting someone, that's not the best person in the world, but they're there to do a job because we do care. We care about our community. We care about our people. And in essence, we're willing to die for what we believe to be right. And I think sometimes people forget that. They forget that we're willing to lay our life down. And so many of our colleagues have laid their life down doing what was right.
Wow, that's heavy. I don't even know what to say even after that. And we're getting comments even about the interview. You have done an excellent job. Thank you so much for just being so open and for sharing. And again, if anybody would like to get in touch with Chief Taylor, I'll put his number up there again so that you guys can see it before we leave. We are going to close the doors of the community a little early. Like I said, we usually go until about 9 o'clock, but this has been a great interview. And I think that you have ended it on a great note, saying we put the uniform on. We are in essence saying, when I put this uniform on, I'm willing to die for you, whether I know you or not, because I have signed up to protect and to serve you. And, sometimes there are some bad apples in the bunch, but overall, across the board, people who have signed up to be police officers are really there because of the calling, because of the passion that they have to serve the community. Thank you so much for your time. And guys, don't forget, we actually came together because we wanted to talk about his book, Life Lessons Learned in Leadership. Hold that book up once again. Tell us where we can find it. And then I promise you, we will let you go.
Amazon. Life Lessons Learned in Leadership.
Everybody is saying that they enjoyed your interview. Great job. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming into the community. We will see you next week. And we're going to let me go ahead and let you go, and then I'll say goodbye to the folks.
Thanks. Well, let me just say this. Thank you for having me. And I just thank you for opening this door, not just for my book, but for me to express some things. I didn't really know that you're going to ask me that, but we are every day. We're willing to give up our life for people just like you, for people that are watching today, and gay, straight, or whatever. We're willing to give our lives up, and it makes no difference, black, white, whatever. We're willing to give our lives up, and I just want people to. I hope that resonate with people tonight, and they understand that that's what we do, and that's who we are. So thank you for having me.
That's heavy. On that note, we're going to say good night. Good night, everybody. Really appreciate you. And thank you for your time. You guys share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.